Hello everyone. So I'm out taking Enki for a walk today and decided it's about time to go ahead and make this video. So this is mostly going out to a lot of those that I've met over these past few years going on this journey, and also to friends, or not friends but family. I really haven't kept in a lot of contact with most of my family in these past 5 or 6 years now, and there's been a lot of stuff going on, and it's not just me. I mean, pretty much everybody's going through this in their own way, and it really all started back in 2009 when I thought I was going to go through a divorce. That set off a chain of reaction of things that started to happen that caused me to question everything. I mean, to the point where I was even suicidal. So it became a big change point for me, because at that time I didn't even know if it was possible for people to change. I mean, I literally grew up with the understanding that, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? People are set in their old ways. So when everything started to happen back in 2009, I remember I went on Google and typed, "Can a person change?" It was literally not even conceivable in my mind at that point. So during that time, you know, there was a couple things that I changed here and there, but overall it was basically just enough to keep me from getting into a divorce and to kind of get me by. Over the years after that, you know, I started to see other things that needed to be changed, but, you know, I just continued doing it. And around 2013, 2014, when Jessica and I had moved to Colorado, she started having a bunch of medical complications. Just before we even moved out here, she was in a hospital for like a week, like a month before we moved. Moved out here, and she started having a lot of complications, ended up having a stroke, and that created another change point, because at that point, seeing her go through what she was going through, I mean, I don't really want to go into too much detail of the experience itself, but seeing things happen and knowing that you have no control over it really puts things into perspective, especially for me at the time. For those that knew me 10 years ago, I was a very different person. You know, I was very egotistical. Everything was me. It was all about me. Look at me, look what I can do. I this, I that. But it was all happening. I'm sorry. All of this that had happened to help bring a change to that. So at the time when I was going through it, I didn't know anything, right? You know, my wife was having a stroke. I was watching her on the ground. I couldn't do anything. Then we take her to the hospital, and the doctors say, well, she has a year to live, right? These strokes, TIAs, are going to continue happening. Her brain damage is going to continue to get worse, and they give her a year to live. So, being that at that time I was very headstrong and determined about no, right? I will find something. I will find something. I will do something. I don't care what medical science says, that there's nothing that they can do for her. I will figure it out. And, you know, I wouldn't say I prayed at the time, because I wasn't very spiritual at the time. But I did go in and ask for help. I did pray, and I did ask for some way to get through this, for some way to help her. And within maybe a couple weeks, not even, I started to get introduced to energy medicine practices. I think it was started off with Qigong. Never heard about Qigong, knew nothing about metaphysics or energy at this time. All of that was stuff is just unconceivable at the time for me. So I started learning Qigong, started learning Reiki, started learning emotion code, what was it? A whole list. I want to say I spent the entire summer, like almost every other weekend or every weekend, in different workshops, learning different energy medicine practices. And I would go home and I would practice with Jessica. Over the next few months, she started to change. And it was like noticeable almost instantly. And here it is. Well, before I get to now, this process in itself started to change me. It started to show me that there was other stuff out there that I wasn't aware of. And things that I was told was not possible according to science is possible. So being as intellectually driven to wanting to know more, I started studying. I started learning about the flower of life, sacred geometry. I started learning about Nassim Haramein and all the teachings they're doing over the Resonance Academy. I started learning about Maran Kesh with oh my goodness, it's been a while. Magrav, talking about magnetical and gravitational fields. There's been a lot of things that have happened over these past few years, but it started my curiosity. It got me seeking, it got me looking into books, right? Prior to then, it's like I only went based off of what I thought I knew, and I was very cynical, you know? If someone had an answer that I didn't have, I would be envious of them or be jealous or you know, whatever. I would keep my distance from them. Or if somebody tried to tell me that I was wrong, I didn't care if I was wrong. I'd still find some way to be able to justify me being right. So along this process, I just kept reading and I kept learning and I kept learning. And one of the things that you first learn is you attract whatever it is that you reach out for. So whatever state of mind or state of being that you're in, you're unconsciously attracting those situations all around you all the time. So when we start to seek, when we start to look inside, when we start to question, we start digging a hole. And this hole doesn't stop. It keeps going. Anyone who is in tune with their profession, their skill, and you ask them if they have reached the depths of all that is possible, they will say no. Because no matter what it is that you do, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. As long as you keep asking questions, you will continue to uncover answers. So as I continue going through this process and I started to learn how ancient texts, scriptures, all of these things from the past are now starting to come to surface. And mainstream science is touching on it, but they're not necessarily at the point where they can explain everything. If we look at quantum theory in itself isn't just one theory. Nobody can agree upon the same thing. So there's a whole bunch of different theories for it. But we're at a point now where, come on, Inky, come on, let's go. Oh, you see another dog. Hey, this way, buddy. Inky, this way. Come on, let's go. So, come on, buddy. They're going in the car. Hey, this way, come on, come on. Come on, they're going in the car, buddy, come on. Okay. Alright, come on. Okay. So Enki found another dog to play with. So the more and more I started looking into metaphysics, and the more I started to see that science is now starting to prove a lot of this. And after having the experiences with Jessica, you know, it wasn't just hearsay. You know, here was experiences that I was having, not from a book, actually seeing it happen. So I started to look further and deeper into it. And as I continued to do that, more and more stuff would continue to appear. I would test these theories, and they would have their results. And the results have always proved it correct. I have yet to have been proven incorrect. So along this process, you basically start to shed layers of what you think you are. It's a combination of Enki. Hey, what's going on, brother? Good, and yourself?
Yeah, it's going all right.
Right on. Hold on. So, going through this process has been kind of like peeling away layers one at a time, right? You think you know who you are, and then each time you peel another layer, you realize that you don't. And you continue to peel them layer piece by piece by piece. And before you know it, you're not the same person you were when you first started this process. Call it a process of ascension, awakening, whatever it is. You know, those that are conscious and aware of what's happening, they're the ones that are out there looking, questioning, researching, testing. The ones that aren't looking into this are the ones that are looking at their lives right now and wondering why the world is falling apart. Things have to break before they get fixed sometimes. And sometimes you don't have to fix exactly what it is. You provide an alternate solution. So everybody in the world is going through this right now. Everybody's removing these layers either consciously and they're progressing faster, or they're doing it unconsciously and they're suffering, feeling misery through the process, not realizing what's going on. So for these past couple years, as I've been learning all of this, I've been also testing out new hobbies, testing out different things that get drawn to my attention. You know, one time I was doing photography, then I was learning the handpan, and now singing, and you know, a couple other things that have gone on since then too as well. But the point is, Enki, this way. Our street, this way, come on. Oh. Enki didn't want to cross the street. So, sorry, I didn't think I was gonna go into this whole discussion, but you know, I guess it seems to be relevant for someone. So, these past couple years, it's like I've been consciously focusing my awareness on learning more, right? But not really knowing what's happening. You know, I never had a guru to sit there and coach me. Oh, well, you're feeling this because this is happening, you know, try this or do that. Everything I've been learning has been self-taught until I started to realize that I wasn't being self-taught. For me, this whole process went from being an atheist to believing in some type of entity to believing in science, to then come around and realize that science is just proving stuff that already exists. And there's a lot of it the science still can't even prove yet. So these past couple years for me have been a lot about learn, unlearn. Go out there and test what you've learned. And it's been a very confusing process for the most part, because while I have been changing internally, I've been also forcefully changing myself externally, thinking that I needed to change my reflection to match what was happening within. But in reality, I didn't need to do anything outside. The outside reflection will automatically change to match the inside. But I didn't know all this going into this, right? Like I said, this is pretty much, I got thrown into it and it's like, figure it out. And I didn't have God to help me at that time because, you know, I wasn't asking for it. So a lot of the things that I did to myself and to everyone around me didn't always make sense, you know. One minute I'm here, one minute I'm there, and it didn't make sense to anyone else because it didn't make sense to me either. So it's still a process of learning. That doesn't change, but you start to become more sure of what you're doing as you're going through it. At the beginning, it was almost like having dual egos, right? Here's the old Oz, and here's the Oz that I think I'm supposed to be, and here's, you know, spirit, consciousness, God up there saying, you're neither of the two. Stop trying to replace one ego with another. So I spent more and more time focused on this, spent more and more time meditating. I got turned on to a system called Falun Dafa, which was my introduction to a spiritual practice. And after doing that for a few months, it turned me on to Kriya Yoga. And Kriya is basically what introduced me back to God. And I've been using Kriya for about 1.5 years now. And I can't even explain most of the experiences that have happened since then. But again, it's removing more and more layers, right? Trying to realize who you are, which is an aspect of the Creator. So over these past few years, I continued to do that. I replaced layers with other layers until I started to realize about 4 months ago, November, something like that, right? That I didn't need to change anything. And this all happened right after Handpan 365. Actually started happening during the process. I felt this urge that I needed to record myself learning something new and share it with others as motivation, inspiration. Here, look, you know, I'm starting from nothing. You can do the same. But in that process, I got scared. Not in my ability to play the handpan or nothing to do with the Handpan 365. Here it is, I spent the past few years getting rid of material possessions, getting rid of the idea of materialism, quite literally attempting to become a renunciant and become a hermit living from our condo, only to realize that I didn't need to do any of that stuff. That's not my path. That's not what I'm supposed to do. And that's a really big thing, because for all of us that are actively seeking, trying to go through this process right now, a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. And it's not supposed to. You know, the way the system is created, it's more likely that consciousness will evolve in between incarnations, not during it. So going through the process, it's like you're going from one person to another. And in between that process is the grades of a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So going through this, it's like, hold on, Enki. So while I was doing the Handpan 365 videos, I started to feel less balanced. I started to feel more stressed out. I started to feel the opposite of what I had been feeling over these past couple years. And immediately I went to fear. You know, I felt that where I was at before I started the Handpan 365 videos was where I wanted to be. And it wasn't necessarily, at that time, it was like, I needed to go back to my practices. I needed to go back and do exactly what I was doing before, because it was working, right? If it isn't broke, don't fix it. But what I realized was I was looking for that feeling, and I was associating it with the practices I was doing. Now, granted, the practices were helping to put me in that state, but it's still up to me to maintain that state. And that's what I was losing when I was doing the videos. I was spending most of the day shooting videos, editing videos, doing all the post work, uploading. That was life. I'd go to work, I'd shoot videos, I'd edit videos, I'd go to bed. Still meditated. I still did a lot of my spiritual practices, but because I wasn't able to maintain awareness in every moment, as I was going through the situations throughout the day, they started to destroy me. I mean, it literally started to bring me down. And I knew that if I started to reflect that, whoever was watching those videos, whoever was in my presence was going to feel that. And that's the complete opposite of what I'm trying to do. Enki, let's go this way, buddy. You know, we have to be conscious of that, you know? We're basically walking around PA systems, and we don't even realize it. So, out of fear, I stopped doing the videos, and I spent the next few months, or next 2 months, like just doing meditation. It's going right back to my normal spiritual practices, meditating several hours a day, you know, doing everything I was doing before. And what I learned this time was that I just need to learn how to maintain that state of being throughout the day. Even a yogi, a renunciant that goes off into a cave will still have their desires, even though they work through their meditations, you know, to live in the world and not be of it, to learn how to use this environment to grow, right? It's like as actors in this play, as characters, right? We want to be musicians, we want to be actors, we want to be doctors, we want to be whatever we want to be, right? But if we step back and we look at it from the perspective of consciousness, from spirit, God, we are literally sitting in front of a computer playing the character that is within a computer. It's like a computer within a computer. So, while one way to live life in this perspective is to become successful at it, Another way to live life in this perspective is to realize that this isn't the only life. This isn't the true or absolute life. And that you can use this life to help you further in your true life. So continue to be your actor. Continue to be your lawyer. Continue to be the musician, whatever you want to be. But do it in full conscious awareness in every moment that you are not the being in this physical shell. You are using this physical shell to look and observe in this environment, but you're not it. Think about the movie Avatar, when that one brother used to get inside the capsule and transfer his consciousness into that avatar body. No different. So now it's about learning to operate within the environment. Continue to go about your daily day-to-day activities, but maintaining conscious awareness of who you are and to live from that state in every moment. So it's a process and it's not simple, but it has been getting easier, right? You know, I look at some situations that are occurring to me now, and if some of this stuff would have happened like 10 years ago, I've been like pulling my hair out. Still got some though. But now they just kind of pass over like, okay, you know, that's just how things are. So things become more difficult, but they become more easy because you can see things before they happen. That's actually very cool too. But you can see things before they happen, and then you can coach yourself through it as it's happening. And it makes the process easier. So, wow, this is, I didn't expect the video to go this long. But, you know, I guess this is really important. So I wanted to get it out. And also, I'm going to be releasing more videos now. And over these past 2 months, I never quit playing the handpan. So definitely kept playing the handpan, just wasn't recording it. And I started playing it in devotion. You know, I started grabbing a bunch of songs from Paramahansa Yogananda and transpose a lot of it into a key where I could play it on the handpan. So that started teaching me how to use the instrument to play in devotion, and provides another way to keep my awareness on God while I'm playing. But while that started to happen, I started to chant. A lot of these songs, well, all of these songs have chants. So I started to sing with it, and after about a month of singing and chanting, I started to become a little more comfortable with it. I started actually thinking maybe I should try learning how to sing, right? So about 3 or 4 weeks ago, it's actually funny because this is like what's it called, an impulse buy. So I had picked up Ableton Live and also the Push, which is like their hardware interface for the programs. That way you can record music into the program and actually compose music on the Push. So I picked that up about a month ago, and I figured, okay, well, it's time to learn how to use this program too. You know, in the past I used to use Pro Tools because when I was working as a recording engineer and went to school, that's all I knew. So I figured this is, you know, next time around, let's go ahead and try something new. So I started Ableton, and I had to go download videos to start learning how to use the software. So I found a program on a website called Udemy, and went ahead and, you know, purchased the program and went ahead and signed up. Well, as soon as I clicked on it, there's one of these like little feed sections where it says, you know, maybe you're interested in this or that. And sure enough, hey, maybe you would like to learn how to sing. So at first I was thinking, okay, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna learn recording and I'll learn singing on the side. So I went ahead and signed up for the singing and didn't realize what I was getting myself into. So I ended up purchasing the singing program. And at first I thought it was okay, you know, this is gonna be something I do on the side while I'm learning how to use Ableton and, you know, and write music in it. And lo and behold, I barely touched the Ableton course, and I've been going through the singing course like crazy. So it was kind of a dead ringer for me at that point. It's like, you know, this is what I guess I'm really drawn to at this time. So I've been learning how to sing and play the handpan. But one of the things that coach Robert Lunt was recommending was to keep a journal. On their website, there's the Vocalist Studio website. There's a forum where a bunch of students go on there to basically, you know, discuss what they're learning and help each other out, you know, so on and so forth, troubleshoot and whatever. And Robert had made a recommendation to start a journal on the forum. So being that I tried doing this with Handpan 365 last year and ended up stopping, I think, after day 80 or something like that, it's pretty obvious to me that I need to do this. So it didn't happen with the Handpan 365, so obviously it's meant to happen with singing. So for now, we'll see what happens. So I think this is probably like almost a 30-minute video now, but I don't know, I guess I really need to get all that out. So if you're still here now, thank you for listening, and I look forward to whatever happens.